Wow. Really wonderful. Sorry, I'm getting.
No, take your time.
I'm getting up the cast list just because I don't want to. I don't want
God
either
forbid
one of
you
us.
look not professional.
I don't want to spread misinformation. This is a terrible time to do such things.
I meant to tell you before we started recording this, you were asking me to jog your memory on last night's episode,
Right.
and after the episode, you found all those news stories. So
I did.
speaking of misinformation, we can be talking about that real soon.
Okay, great. Well, cheers.
Hey, cheers, baby. Here you go.
It's almost like not too deep. I mean, no, this might get weird. Oh my God, I'm part of too many podcasts.
This is what we do now. This is it. This is all
we do is podcasts. All we do is podcasts. This is my third podcast of the day. This is your second podcast of the day. That sounds stupid.
And the first one was about anxiety, and this one's about Mika and Michael.
Oh man, the two don't connect at all.
Hi everybody, welcome to Pilot On. This is the third episode of the Pilot On podcast with me, Elliott Morgan, and my girlfriend here, Grace Helbig.
Me.
Who is a lovely human being and has gotten me into a show called Married at First Sight on Lifetime. Some of you guys have watched it since listening to this.
So many of you have not, which is even better.
Even better,
and somehow everyone keeps saying that they like listening to this without any context of the show, any history or relationship with watching the show.
Yeah.
And I appreciate those comments so much. I do not understand how that's real for you, but I hope that continues for you.
I can understand the idea of something being like there's no pressure to like if you watch the show or feel a need to watch the show, there's a pressure to understand what we're talking about, but if you just are like whatever, I guess we're white noise for people.
Yeah, maybe people's standards are so desperate in these desperate times, or maybe there is some value to hearing two dummies that got obsessed with one show hyper analyze it to no end with reckless abandon
and disregard for what the
for people's feelings.
Which we see. We do try to make a point that we're not ever trying to hurt anybody's feelings.
Because I think there's the self-awareness that we ourselves are wildly flawed, and that's why there's such joy in watching this type of entertainment that picks apart and highlights and focuses and enhances people's flaws.
Exactly.
Sure. Or we're just trash people that like some trash things.
Yeah, they signed the papers. They're on the TV. You're going to get a little jokey joke happen. Not a big deal.
Again, would you like to explain, because I cut you off, what Married at First Sight is? Well, because this podcast also, I'm cutting you off again.
Sure.
Before it even gets restarted, is not going to continue to be about Married at First Sight because sadly, but also maybe wonderfully, this season is coming to an end.
Oh, it's time. It's been 84 years.
Starting to really parallel and mirror quarantine.
Yes, it is.
Which was fun for a little bit, and now I just really want the world to get better and for it to end.
Yep. And now it just can't be the same thing every single time, which is kind of what this episode was. But Married at First Sight is a show, if I can jump in here.
You please do. I'm going to fix my sweatpants so they don't make me look like I got a huge dong. Sorry.
A tiny petite dong.
Thank you.
So Married at First Sight is a show where people, it's a reality show where people sign up to marry perfect strangers. They see them for the first time walking down the aisle.
Not so perfect strangers.
Not so perfect stranger. And the show touts itself as a sort of social experiment because apparently that's a way you can say things on TV.
You can basically classify all reality television as a social experiment.
Yes, and it definitely is a scientifically sound experiment.
Because there's experts.
It's a double blind, there's experts that pair people based on what they want in a partner.
What they say they want in a partner.
Which is so...
We'll get into all of that.
Boy, it's going to be a doozy. And they decide over 8 weeks whether they want to stay married with that person or if they want to get a divorce / annulment. And the show supposedly pays for all the annulment stuff, which you told me, but we don't really know.
Wait, and no one knows anything.
People have corrected, rightfully so, me thinking that it was like a 50%.
Oh, yes. No, it is.
Success rate. Yeah, it's not. It's like 22 or 3%.
Something like that. But then they've also, in my post-show deep dive, sorry, something's happening with the audio.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Okay, it's better now. there were these little things that made it sound like the audio was farting for a second.
Huh.
Yeah, it was a true treat. That's just the FBI agent that was dialed in, just dialing back out. He's like, this is what this is again.
Yeah, I'm not married for a second. I'm supposed to be Lego Masters.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh,
it was
great.
something about the show and what it is.
Great.
They married at first sight. There's experts.
Experts. I totally lost track.
No, I thought we were going to completely stop, so now we got to find our rails again. We fell off.
Oh, God. This is so true to how they're operating on that show.
Speaking of that show, this is a show called Pile It On. I don't know, do we start over?
No.
The episode that we watched last night, Grace, was arguably the worst episode of the season, I would say, so far.
Hold on, I'm going to stop this down for 1 second.
There it is.
Sorry, it's just making, there's some, I don't know if it's you tapping your feet or...
Well, Goose was walking around outside.
No, I know, it was just like this
Ooh.
flutter noise, which I think it sounds fine now. I'm just going to move this up onto here. That might be a better situation.
Do you want to start from the top or you want to
No, we'll just edit that out.
Perfect.
We'll just blah, 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 blah out. I'm trying to remember what that train of thought it was I was having before all that.
Let's just sit in this moment and see if you can come up with it. Don't worry about the podcast. Don't worry about the folks listening, watching.
It's not worth it.
They all know.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
I'm sure it'll come back, but this episode was very boring. Basically,
this episode was so boring.
Oh, it was about the success rate. We were talking about the
right.
success.
Oh, yes. Because, yes, thank you. There's the train tracks. We're back on it. We're chewing with gas. I did see when I've now done I've allowed myself permission to do some internet deep dives after the show, for better or worse, probably for worse. And I did see that they've announced in quarantine a spin-off series, loosely using that word, in which the couples that have succeeded on the show are going to film themselves in quarantine watching the show or reacting to something. Basically, it's just, again, their way of being like, see, these people are still together and look how healthy they are and they're doing great.
Is it going to be the people from this season?
No, it's a collective throughout the series. So they're taking a lot of like the fan favorites and basically all the ones that are still together.
Have they announced who it is?
Probably. I didn't go that far.
Okay.
I have limits.
If it's the bald guy and the
No, they didn't stay
redheaded
together.
woman. I thought they did.
No, I think they broke up after the show.
But
anyway, the success rate is dramatically lower than what you thought it was.
Well, now we know. So what originally attracted me to this show is the idea that initially starting a relationship by getting married would add such a pressure that you would resolve your differences really quickly and it would result in a higher success rate. But apparently that's not the case.
No, it's not.
Which makes total sense. I mean, it's not even a 50-50. If anything, it means the experts are worse than random selection, right? You would have a...
Yeah, pretty much. And
so this is an awful show.
And also this season is particularly bad.
Yeah.
Particularly
the couples
bad.
are dropping like flies.
They're dropping like flies. It makes it seem like the experts put no thought or actual care into this matchup process, which I'll get into later. The rumors I've heard surrounding all of that actually explain some things if they're true, but who knows that this is all alleged.
It's a
bullshit.
Pilot On exclusive.
It's a Pilot On exclusive. Also, I've really reached new grounds by looking at gossip boards.
What was the name of the site that
I don't
you read
remember.
last
I will
night?
look this up now.
It was like...
Oh, my God.
Hollywood... Love Wire?
Something. It was 2 words together that was really terrible. Let me find my history. I can probably find it. If you want to vamp for a second.
I'll vamp anyway. After the episode was over last night, before we resumed watching Ozark,
yes.
We did a little deep dive into the Twitter. We did the hashtag on Twitter, and regardless of whether you watch the show, if you think our commentary is humorous or funny, there are some people on Twitter who are saying things that we would not say, but are very darkly funny sometimes.
Yes. I'll find this later. I was looking it up on my phone. It was all these rumors about this season.
Well, so to kind of give context, there's a few different couples on this show. We won't try to recap too much, I guess, since we've done that in previous episodes.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about this episode is because it was so frustratingly boring and a lot of just filler, there's not a whole lot of new thought, at least I have, on everyone's situations. It's just kind of lingering until we get to the end.
Yeah. Yep. You've taught me a very freeing thing of when you have the remote and the show comes back on and they start doing like the pre-recap.
Yeah.
You go, no, don't show me what you're gonna show me. And then you fast forward like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then there'll be like something new, and then it'll start recapping again or giving a teaser for the next thing. You go, no, and you're like, you basically trim a 2-hour episode down to an hour.
That's really what they are. That's the real meat of the episode. Everything else is just fat.
And last night was all fat, basically. I don't think there was anything really significant that happened except Mika and Michael are a couple. Mika,
okay, let's just start from the beginning of the episode. They're still at this haunted CGI'd house in the middle of nowhere, which also started to give me anxiety just based on like, you know, the lingering kind of like itch that we all have being in our
quarantine
home.
And we're resuming a reality show where they're also stuck in the same house.
They're stuck with themselves, with production, and things are still all messy and complicated from the last episode. So it just felt like it slammed us in the face with our own anxieties about our own quarantine. And it was just like, I wanted them to all get out of the house. I was like, let them all leave, please.
Leave.
Immediately.
Get out of the house. Go. It doesn't matter.
I can't breathe until you leave right now.
We're living vicariously through you. Get in a car and drive.
But they squeezed out the last little bit of juice from this dry lemon of this house because some couples left the couples retreat finally, but then they made a couples stay to do more excursions that were just so painful to watch.
They did this, one of them.
So Mika and Michael, is that who you want to talk about? Because that was
more than anything in this
that
world.
Was one of the harder things to watch in reality television, but just so I sat like this with my hands on my face, just in awe that this was happening and still happening and still happening.
Well,
they made them go apple picking. Which is in itself a lovely couples activity normally.
But Michael was upset and I think was over the whole thing.
Yeah.
And was at the different, like, they're all kind of in different stages of the arc of, you know, breaking up or being kind of basically literally over it. And not Taylor, but the Brandon. So Brandon is way past where Michael is. He's totally
beyond
done.
done.
He's not on the show anymore. He's cussed everybody
he
out.
Verbally assaulted production.
It comes out later in the episode that he's demanding an apology from the executive producers in order for him to appear on camera, which I can't wait to see if they end up doing. Because if I was a reality show executive producer, I would be like, of course, I'm so sorry. And just like say a bunch of lip service to get this guy to come back on TV. So I imagine he'll end up showing up, I would think. Anyway, Michael is in a different place, but still on the way down. He hates every second of his life. And so there's all this footage of him grabbing apples with these sunglasses and ear pods on.
So they go to we have so much to talk about to mine in this moment that you're so far into it. They drive to this apple orchard. He's got a red Solo cup with him the whole time that I can only assume is some sort of beverage to help alleviate his bad mood. Who knows? There's never mentioned, but he has a water bottle and a Solo cup.
Yeah, you know what that is.
There's a big old giant rearing question mark around all of it. He's not talking at all. Clearly, I feel like if we zoom out, like with the production conversation a little bit, that he, last episode, went with Brandon to work his music festival back in the city with production, supposedly. He was forced to come back. Brandon got free. So I feel like this is now his silent protest throughout this episode because he does not want to be on this couples retreat anymore. And he's like, Brandon got out. I want to get out. So he doesn't say anything.
Also explains why he was so weird about the answer of where they went, why he came back, why Brandon didn't. Like, he probably, if you're pissed off that you even have to be there and somebody's accusing you of lying about it, but you can't say why because it's production.
Exactly. He's doing the barest minimum that he has to do legally, I bet, to fulfill all of his requirements for camera and production, and then he's not doing any more because they get onto this like wagon. They hitch a hayride to the apple orchard.
Somebody tweeted last night.
I know, and it's Mika sits down in the front of this hay wagon, and he sits like 6 feet away from her and doesn't make eye contact with her. They don't say a single damn thing to each other.
Yeah, and somebody on Twitter last night tweeted, great job social distancing Mika.
Yeah, Mika's practicing social distancing.
Two people sitting as far apart away from each other on a hayride is maybe one of the funniest things I've ever seen with my eyes.
And it's clear that, like, production got Michael to participate in this activity, but they cannot force him to talk. So he's not talking. Then they get to the apple. They get to the apple orchard, and then he just goes pick, 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 pick. Like, gets them all their shots of him picking that they could put into a montage, and then he's just wandering around, done. And then Mika's like, Granny Smith is my favorite kind of apple, and he's not even looking.
First of all, Mika is so great
God
at this point
her.
in this season.
Yeah.
She's turned around so much for me personally.
Yeah.
I see her for the hug that she is as a human being.
And then the hug that she needs.
No one ever gives a flying shit what somebody's favorite apple is.
But
that's the most ass. I don't care if you're making apple juice, if you're at an apple orchard, if you're bobbing for apples. No one cares.
Sure. But she's trying to make conversation. She's trying to at least give producers a moment of them doing a date. He's just going pick, 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 and then looking to the side, like clearly waiting for production to tell him they got the shots that they need and he can leave. He still has his solo cup the whole time.
And he's like slamming the apples into the basket or bucket or whatever. He's like,
It's like he's racing on some like field day activity, and then they're supposed to have a picnic, and at this point I'm just like, please don't make her have to have a picnic with him now.
And in my mind at that point I was like, how are they gonna top sitting far apart on a hayride? And they do top it because Mika sits down to this picnic, which by the way was a brown bag of food and like turkey sandwiches and ham sandwiches.
It's just like what the crew ordered for everyone, and he's looking through to check if he got his order.
So she lays down on the blanket like she's like doing a picnic, and he just kind of stands.
He stands
and
next to the blanket
and starts eating an apple out of the bag.
No, he doesn't eat an apple. He opens the apple. He finds chocolate pudding in the bag.
That's where he goes, oh, pudding.
And then he just starts going to town on this chocolate pudding while standing up next to Mika, who's just sitting like you would on a picnic blanket. And he's just staring into the distance with his sunglasses on, eating pudding like the drunkest I've ever been, coming home in the middle of the night and seeing just shredded cheese in my fridge and going, now pudding. You are mine.
Shredded cheese. Also, the flies.
That's what you said.
It was perfect. It was a perfect...
There were so many flies all around them the whole time that they're doing this, and she's trying to have a conversation, and she's swatting so many flies away.
And she's trying not to swat flies away. It's watching somebody try not to swat flies away while also talking about how their husband is failing them.
It's like watching someone trying to hold in a cough. It is so hard to watch. Oh my gosh. And it's also just so symbolic of what's happening in the world right now, that I was like, please get her out of this. Let her free. This is so, and then at this, to her absolute credit, at the same time, she's still trying to have a conversation with him about trying. Yes. At least she's trying, and he's clearly not trying. I told you last night that I'm now starting to believe that that's not recording.
It did stop, didn't it?
Yeah. And we're back. Wow, sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. We're still getting it together. Yeah. Like we said, too many podcasts, so little quality control.
Let's just pile it on, Am I right?
There you go. And you're right, you're right.
I felt good about saying that.
Okay, what were we talking about? Well, this is symbolic. We're just doing a theater piece that represents the show, so that what you guys are feeling about the way we put this janky episode together is how we felt watching this episode. So this has all been wildly intentional.
Wildly intentional, and definitely the exact opposite of what we set out to do at the beginning, where I was like, we got to make this episode more interesting than the actual show was. And we did exactly what the show did, which is just recap things over and over. We were talking about Mika and Michael in the orchard with the picnic.
Yes, the picnic and the flies, and they finally got to leave. And what I was saying is that I told you last night that I feel like these last two episodes are just too long commercials for AirPods.
Yeah, AirPods.
Because
Yeah.
they just he and Brandon just keep putting their AirPods in. AirPods?
I don't know. I never know.
They put their pods
AirPods,
in.
I think, maybe.
They put their pods in and then they just tune out, because I guess in their contracts it doesn't say that they don't have to take all of their electronic devices out of their ears.
Yeah, they wear and then Michael especially was doing the sunglasses, which I
Yes.
think after this episode, I am convinced that he's a blind man.
Oh, yeah, I know.
He doesn't make eye contact, which is
No.
one thing. But next time if you watch the show, look up some clips.
Yeah, I mean, he's
he's a
uncomfortable
blind
with
man.
eye contact.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so that's Michael and Mika's excursion, one for the ages. Where those apples went, we'll never know. Hopefully they got put to good use, because he picked them like crazy.
He picked like a crazy man.
Yeah.
We should talk about the normals.
Oh, the normals, Jessica and Austin.
Because that actually got for me, interesting.
Yes.
You said it was not super. One of the more interesting parts of this episode
Yeah.
was while the other couples were just recapping the same stuff over and over again, this particular couple, what's their names?
Austin and Jessica.
Right, Austin and Jessica. They started, I feel like she kind of got real
Well, they were
aggro about something. Or
their relationship is so normal that they keep harping on the same two issues, that he didn't expose how much he travels to work before when he originally started talking about that with her earlier on in their relationship, and also he hasn't said I love you yet. And so those are the two major tentpole difficulties that they're having, and they just keep saying them over and over and over. And then by the end of the episode, it finally got really interesting for me, especially because I just had written them off as like, well, here we go again. It's going to be I love you or your travel, either one. And it was, until the point that Austin was saying in his like confessional or interview, Talking Head, that she's so upset about his travel because she wants him there all the time and wants to like go to bed at the same time and like do everything together. And because he thinks that growing up as an identical twin, which she is, that she's got this like need, because she's always had her sister there.
Did he say the twin thing?
Yeah, he did. That's what I was like.
Super interesting.
Yeah, I think you were making a bowl or something.
Yeah, of cereal.
Yeah. And he said that, and I was like, whoa, that is profound. And that makes so much sense that this would be harped on so much, because I thought it was just being fabricated for the show.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh no, she really is bothered by this so much. And now he's over talking about it so much because he can't go back in time and rephrase how he told her. And so he's like, I don't know if I'm into this, that she's so needy in that way.
And he was being like, what do you want me to do? Like,
Right.
I did the thing. It was bad. Yes, bad. Now what?
Yeah, well,
And
that's
she
what
was like, she kept going, well, they did it. And it's like, what are you going for?
Well, that's what I said too. I was trying to figure out in my brain, like putting myself in their shoes, what is the point of this argument? Like, what does she want from him? Does she want him to go back in time? Does she want him to not travel at all? Like, what is the actual desire here?
Yeah, there's like some cliches I think are real true more often than not. And I do think that like dudes in general, the core thing that they get upset about is when they don't feel respected. And he was very adamant about her not respecting his work and the fact that he had changed career paths and how hard that is, and like how hard he'd worked to get to where he is. And
I missed that part.
Yeah, and then the communication broke down because he basically expressed that in so many words, and then she was like, well, when have I ever said that? Like, when have I ever done that? And so in her
mind,
mind,
it got into semantics.
and and then it devolved real quick, and it became a bigger argument. But I was like, that's it always does seem to be with the dudes that it's respect, and then the girls, in my experience, subjective experience, is they want to be desired and wanted and pursued. And so when you have someone from her perspective who's going like, no, I want you to want to be here,
right?
Not necessarily. So it's like, in my mind, I'm going, well, if I was him, I would just go, I love you, which he hasn't said, and that's a big deal for her, and I get a bigger deal for him since he won't say it. But they go, I love you, and we're going to get through this, and I know it's going to be tough, but it's okay. And that way it would make her feel desired, and also wouldn't put her in a position where she's being perceived to be disrespectful to his job.
That makes so much sense. Psychoanalyst Elliott Morgan.
Thank you for joining us. This is Lifetime's Married at First Sight.
That makes so much sense because he perceives the fact that she consistently brings this up as you must have a problem with my job. Otherwise, you wouldn't consistently bring this up. And the one medicine she needs to heal these wounds is to be needed by him or loved and desired by him. And he's not giving her that either.
Because he's sitting there going, why is this a problem?
Yeah.
Why do you care? It's not big of a deal.
It's so
I'm
easy
with you all
to
the time.
figure it out from the outside.
I know, isn't it? And that's what's fun.
So it's just like a miscommunication between them, basically.
Yeah, it's very rare that the show has a problem that isn't like fundamental to the couple's compatibility.
Yeah.
And this is one of those ones that's like a cute problem where it's like, no, you guys actually could benefit from one of the experts being like, no, this one's this, you want this?
Yeah, let's get some clarity here. Let's see what's underneath of this, and then you'll be totally secure, both of you, in this situation.
They'll be great.
I still think they'll be fine.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah, because also the end of this episode, they all go back from the retreat, and they all leave for the night because it's the day before decision day.
Yes.
So he ends up leaving because they want to have them in separate places to spend their last night.
I remember this,
Yeah, and so he ends up leaving, so they left on those weird tones. And also when he was saying goodbye, because she left and he stayed in the apartment, I guess he didn't kiss her, or it was some awkward moment.
They're just making it
where they were clearly at odds, and they don't know how to fight with each other yet because they just started to get to know each other.
They just started to get to married.
They just started to marry each other, and she leaves. But it's this very awkward moment where, like you're saying, she clearly wanted him to grab her and kiss her and tell her it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. So she leaves in this weird, awkward, floaty ghost way and then starts saying, I don't know why he didn't kiss me. And I was like, oh, no, that's the last thing you need is another unnecessary seed planted in your head about any problems you guys have.
Yep.
Ugh. Okay, but that's the extent of their drama, which is still very tame.
Very tame, but very refreshing in comparison to the weirdness that is Derek and Katie. Grace, tell them about Derek and Katie.
What do we say about Derek and Katie? I feel like you have such a better summary of this. Well, Derek is a forever baby boy.
Baby boy.
He is a baby boy to his core, and that's not a bad thing. He's just a very young at heart, youthful soul, very happy-go-lucky, very just like the glass is half full.
He's filled with wonder.
He's filled with wonder. He's a little kid.
Yeah.
He's a little kid, and somehow he's an adult also. And he's just kind of this weird, normal dude enigma. And Katie is not that. I think she's lost her childlike luster a while ago. I don't know if she had it. To be fair, I feel like the internet is really ripping her apart. I don't want to be part of ripping her apart because she's put herself in this situation, and it's a tough situation of vulnerability all the way around.
Yep, it very much is, and everyone in the show is doing their best, and that's always important to mention.
Just another little caveat.
Just a little disclaimer.
We're not bad people.
We're not bad
and
people.
And neither are they.
They're not bad people.
But they're doing some bad things.
But they're doing some bad things, and they're all wrong, and we're right. Katie.
Mm-hmm.
Katie. This is not a judgment on Katie, but I do think that there's something to last week's episode when I said maybe she wants what she doesn't want. She wants what she thinks.
I think that's exactly correct.
And is actually maybe repulsed by what she consciously says she wants.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that stuff is based in really Freudian shit.
Yeah.
And this particular episode has Katie sitting down with her dad to talk about Derek.
Well, before all of that.
Okay. Yes.
Because we don't want to skip ahead from all the real juice that makes the meat taste weird.
Yeah, I tried to consciously forget so much of this episode.
I know.
So
and I always come into
in.
this and think I don't remember, and now I'm just remembering every part of it. Well, they leave the couples retreat in the morning to go on their excursion, which is they just go near like a lake.
Metal chairs. They sit in metal
They
chairs
sit
outside.
in these wildly uncomfortable looking metal chairs by like it looks like a water hole on a golf course.
Oh, man. That was a whole conversation we had last night about the budget differences.
There's none.
The budget differences between Bachelor and this
Yeah,
thing where
I was like,
Bachelor, get on. Yeah.
They would be getting on a plane flying to Paris for the night and coming back. Instead, they're like, here's some discount chairs from Kmart. We're going to set you up near this sprinkler. If we shoot this quick enough, they won't realize we're in their backyard right now.
Wait, was this also Melting Pot? They went to Melting Pot?
They went to Melting Pot later in the episode.
With rose petals?
Yeah.
Melted cheese and rose petals? How's that work?
It doesn't, because that was set up.
That's a
Melting
mess.
Pot doesn't put rose petals on the table. I was like, I don't believe this part.
Your birthday's coming. coming up.
Oh God. Okay. So they go and they sit. They seem like first of all, she wakes up in her shame cloud from being a drunk mess the night before.
Yes.
And they have a little cuddle sesh and everything's fine. Then they go sit and have wine at this place for whatever reason. And she's got her sunglasses on. And then she starts having a conversation with him about how she doesn't know if they're gonna because the thing was
she became a mob boss
in
the middle of the episode.
Yeah, she's got sunglasses on.
Do you think I'm gonna say yes?
Yeah, what do you think? What are the reasons you think I would say no?
If I say no, why do you think I said no?
Yeah, there you go. We just said we weren't gonna be mean, but then they go because their excursion is that this place has like a love lock that you put on a fence, and then you throw the key into this water lake, tiny rickety thing, and that's your promise of love to each other. And they can't agree on what the lock should stand for because he's like, what if we promise to always be on the same team? And she said, I can't promise that. And he's like, huh? And she's like, what if we just say we promise, to make sure we're happy together or apart? And he's like, what? Why would we be apart? Why don't we want to make a wish that we're always on the same team?
Beautiful boy.
Oh, it was so painful to watch.
What do you mean we will not be on the same team?
Yeah, she's like, and then she switches
you my
it.
wife.
She switches it to, it was such a beautiful moment. She was like, why don't we promise that we will make each other happy? And then she said, because if it's not working, we want each other to be happy still if it's apart or together. And then he said, why don't we wish to be on the same team? And she said, okay, why don't you wish to be on the same team? And then I'll wish that I'm happy. She switched it from making him happy to making her happy. And I was like, oh,
okay, how about we switch it to your job is to make me happy and my job is to be happy.
Yeah, that seems like an even trade.
Yeah, it's real good. That conversation made me, that was one of the get up and walk out of the room scenes, because I was like, I can't handle that, like, that poor dude, and also her trying to kind of give hints and kind of guide him to the river.
I think she's now over it. Her hangover has faded away, and now she's kind of pissed off and grumpy about the whole situation again, and is just waiting to get through it.
So Katie then goes to meet with her father and mother.
Oh, but they also saved a turtle on their way out and then had to give the turtle back because clearly you're not allowed to just take a turtle off the ground and bring it home.
That was actually, that made me more upset than anything on this show has. I was like, put the turtle back. There's no reason.
You don't need to keep the turtle. You don't have to have a quirky moment.
What producer even let them think that was like a storyline?
They didn't, because they clearly made them give
it first. Excuse me. They let him take the turtle.
Right. And then
That's too long.
And then, they weren't caught up. The production car wasn't behind them the whole time. So they were doing that off book. And,
that's true.
But then, so later in the episode, they have everyone meet with important people in their lives, right? So they can do their last little conversations before decision day to see what advice these loved ones have for them. And she goes and has dinner with her dad and I guess like her stepmom or someone. A woman was there.
Maybe her mom.
An adult woman was at the table. No, her mom and dad are divorced.
Right.
Because that's where a lot of her trauma comes from.
And there it is.
And basically her dad, this was your favorite scene to analyze.
Well, what happened was while explaining all of her grievances with the, blind groom she was set up with, while her own father was defending
Derek. Yeah, there you go.
She then got to a point where she said, I was expecting someone older, like 30, with like little gray hair on their cheek. And it cuts to her dad, who is a pretty young dad, and he's got a gray beard.
He's got little gray hair, exactly where she pointed.
Is so crazy, right where she pointed. Now, she wants her dad. She wants a version of her dad for a partner, of course. Why not? But
most women do.
yeah, I think it was even further evidenced in that scene when she was a little bit called out by her dad. And a little bit like, tap your brakes, you're being kind of hard on this dude.
Yeah.
And if I were him, I would be terrified of you, is what he said to his daughter.
Yes.
But I was like, okay, so he's making good points defending Derek, but also that kind of behavior Derek would never do. Derek would never be like, hey, you're being ridiculous right now, because
pump the brakes.
That dude will not call this girl on her crap at all.
No.
And I'm not saying that she's full of crap and should constantly be calling her crap all the time, but calling each other on your crap is a good thing.
Yeah.
That's all. And her
So
dad did it.
basically,
Her dad fulfilled both the aesthetic desire that she
So you
wants
think
and
that there's a lot to unpack in the relationship there. I don't think Derek is a spitting image of her dad, so that's always going to be a little bit of an issue for her subconsciously.
Yep.
Maybe consciously, who knows? And then the poor dad's like, Derek's the nicest guy she's ever brought home, so I really don't want her to fuck this up. Not in those words, but basically.
Especially, I feel like when there's something to just like a nice guy that is good, and then this guy is so nice and so just like, you can tell he's got a good heart even through reality TV cameras, and you're like, don't give this guy not a chance. But at the same time, if they're not compatible, they're not compatible. So she's being honest, and it's not, he doesn't work for her, so whatever. Yeah.
And then Derek goes and has dinner with his dad and his sister, and they basically like have to pull out of him like what problems are potentially happening in the relationship. And he says something like she gets angry sometimes or something. He like even his way of explaining the hardships they're having is so sugar-coated.
But sugar-coated, but it still comes out where even in his sugar-coated cadence at one point he still goes, yeah, plus there's this thing where she doesn't really like that I have all these dreams.
Oh yeah, he does say that.
Did you hear yourself?
Oh yeah, and he said that she's not down with like the inner nerd thing. And the sister, you could tell the sister's trying to be polite on TV, but she's like, yeah, that's a core problem. Like that's a big old red flag that you can't change that color.
She doesn't like a lot of my past with like the poems, and she doesn't really like the future with the dreams. And in the present, she says I'm not living up to her expectations, but it's going really good.
But I think I'm going to say yes on decision day. I don't see any reason not to.
Yeah, there's no red flags.
Yeah, and then they go back to their apartment. I forget exactly what happens, but it seemed like she's kind of like, "Okay, you leaving? Like you packing up? Can you get out of here?" Like she's clearly like needs some space.
Yeah.
So I honestly, going into the next episode of them making their decisions for decision day, I don't know what she's gonna do. I really think I'm a little bit on the fence about it.
What Katie's gonna do?
I don't think, because she's laid out all of these hints, like, gummy bears leading to a bad house, but hey, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. Basically, in so many ways, like trying to soften his blow of her saying no. But I wonder if she gets a night alone, like, will she miss him?
Well, we'll have to tune in next week.
I guess we'll have to tune in and find out. Finally.
I don't know. I don't know if she'll. We should talk a little bit about this because I'm curious what your thoughts are, Grace.
Okay. Elliott.
If you're on this show, you get paired with someone.
Yeah.
It's either you stay married, or you break up.
Right.
And there's
it's so black and white.
Yeah. Which obviously begs the question: how many people either break up and then continue to date, or stay married and continue to date? Which do you think would be the safer option?
I mean, you'd have to have an open dialogue with your other person, right? And which is really difficult to do. But I feel like if you were 8 weeks in, still not totally sure, if you had the conversation that was like, hey, I don't want this to affect how much I do like you, but I think it's safer for us to get our free divorce for right now and just date like a normal couple would. Kind of like what the one that talks in riddles on Love is Blind did.
Gianna.
Yeah. Gigi. Yeah. That show we could talk about for hours. That they broke up and then got back together, like without the cameras.
Right.
That I'd be like, can we just do this without the cameras? But I also don't know if like maybe it's better to save face on TV than say you're going to stay together and stay married. I don't know what the cost of a divorce is. No offense. I don't know why that'd be offensive.
None taken.
So, I don't know how much of a toll that would be financially, and if it makes more sense for them to get their free TV.
I'll show you right
deal
now.
Divorce.
Here's my theory. I think that if you're on a show like this, unless you are head over heels in love with your person, you should call it off. You should say, no, we're not going to do it. It's not working right now, because I think it's one thing to get married on a reality television show to see if you can get paired with someone that you're a good fit with. That's risky enough. Yeah. To put the pressure a second time on like a second marriage and then let the cameras go away, I think is not fair to the relationship. I think the best thing to do, break apart, do a new thing.
That's very healthy response.
Thank you so much. I've been working on it for hours.
You've been just thousands of dollars in therapy for that.
I have a whole chart that I made over here. Yeah.
Will you stop and start that real quick? Cool. We're just restarting our camera. It's all part of this process. Wonderful. But we should talk. The other part of this episode is the Taylor Brandon situation, which Brandon has refused, like you said, to be in any scene on the show, to do any recordings until the executive producers apologize to him, because that's how adults handle.
Here are my terms.
I want them to publicly apologize for treating me like every reality show contestant has ever been treated.
And I want them to come alone, no weapons, and if they don't, she's gonna get a bullet.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, we've been watching a lot of Ozark too,
yeah,
so
I kind of cross wires there a little bit.
Yeah, but so he's not there, but they have apparently secret like GoPros in their apartment, and they've caught him one night going over to the apartment with Taylor, and they're all cuddled up on the couch watching TV, and it looks very intimate. And so they've also
too intimate. It was very.
They were like, he was got his hand on like her butt, and it's like you're like, what is she naked? I can't tell.
Yeah,
it was a little confusing, but that's the hope they're giving the audience, that maybe there's some hope.
Yeah,
and Taylor's talking to her friends. Her wig is all over the place, and her friends are like, why would you stay in this? And she's saying that the producers tell her that off camera he says that he likes her and that he would want to give it a try without all of the production, which sounds like a great lie a producer says to produce a person on a television show. So who knows what the layers are here, but that situation I looked up after the show.
And what did you find, Grace?
I found some very seemingly sketchy in their reliability sources that said
not Lovewire.
Was that what it was called?
I think it was Lovewire or something like that.
Is that a thing? It was some website that's it's like Gossip Biz or something like that. That I guess a groomsman from Brendan's wedding with Taylor was like spilling some tea. There was some screen grabs of messages sent to who knows who on what knows what platform about how Taylor, apparently a couple of the brides backed out last minute before they started filming this season.
Yes.
And so Taylor was a last minute replacement. She wasn't originally matched with Brandon. And they didn't do a very thorough background check on her. So they just plopped her in, hoping that what she was saying about herself was real and true. And they just hope for the best with her and Brandon mixing together, and that she's not actually studying for a PhD or a doctorate or whatever it is. She's nothing to do with medicine, that she's like a couch surfer and like doesn't have a car or something like that. Which, if that is the case, that makes so much more sense to me about why this is all happening and why that weird video of her saying she'll be single forever was floating around. What are your thoughts on my skeevy, unnecessary deep dive into a part of the internet that I can't take off my computer now?
Yeah, its reliability is as questionable as its relevance to anything to do with the world or our lives.
Yep.
I think you're probably right, yeah.
That makes so much...
for people who think that somebody wouldn't do that, people do that kind of crap tenfold all the time.
Do what?
Like kind of blatant lying to come off a certain way.
Look at Michael.
Yeah, you said it. That man is one of the tweets I saw. That's a mean tweet. I won't.
Okay.
But it was
that's for the best.
Darkly funny. But the idea of her being kind of fraud a little bit.
Well, if she was supposed to, because he's saying earlier in the season that, excuse me, gross. That's me being transparent and authentic.
Real, cool, quirky.
Take me at face value. He says that she was supposed to be on Love Island and that she wasn't available for that, so she is doing this show, which just makes all of this make sense, that she got plugged in last minute. On paper, you can paint her as this Beauty and Brains character, and Brandon, they have enough similarities. They could get along with each other. And then clearly this is a show where she has to get married, not just party. And so there's a clash of expectations meets reality meets can't stop production because it costs too much to stop the show once the wheels are in motion.
What? How do you? Okay, yeah.
Which also, to me, would explain if they had two. This is all hypothetical. This is all just hearsay. It's all rumor. We know nothing. But it makes more sense if you had two or however many brides drop out right before they started filming, and they had backups to fill in that made kind of sense. That makes sense to me that none of the experts are anywhere to be found. Like, I feel like they kind of like, this is not the way to do this, but we're going to see if we can get away with it. And it turns out you can't, if that's true.
Imagine being on a reality television show because you couldn't do Love Island because your schedule was so hectic.
Who
that
knows?
You turned down one of the biggest.
That's just the thing that Brandon said in a throwaway.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say nah on that.
But see, I can see based on the footage too that they're like hanging out, like watching TV. I'm like, yeah, these two probably would like hook up for a little bit in real life, production aside. And so,
well, they're doing it production, not aside. Imagine though imagine being like an understudy bride where you're
if you
a runner-up
to
a runner-up.
If you want to be on reality TV though, I figure you do whatever comes your way.
But hey, whatever. Good for them.
Anyway,
But
they weren't involved in this episode very much. And then the glaring hole in the episode was Zach and Mindy are nowhere to be found, which I have to say I missed Mindy.
I miss
calling
Mindy,
it like it is.
I'm gonna tell her not to because
I can't hear any of it.
Whining like crazy.
Oh, I can't hear it at all.
Go lay in bed, Goose. Go lay in bed. Go. No whining. No whining.
Just a quick little pep talk.
Go.
She might not go. We're okay. I trust you. Sorry. You guys just watched us get in a fight.
She said I can't.
We got in a fight and we handled it. Everything's fine. Are you okay?
I just don't feel like you respect my job, but neither do I.
Sip, 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 sip. Okay, what were you saying?
Being an understudy.
Being an understudy, and the follow up is that if you want it, you'll take whatever opportunities you can get. Oh, that we're missing Mindy.
We're missing Zach, but they do show up for the next episode.
They make it seem like Mindy's going to change her mind about Zach, and that Zach has this enlightening moment that he had walls up. I don't know if he had walls up.
No, he's a monster. He's a evil murderer.
I don't know.
I'm not trying to say anything negative about him, but he's a sociopath.
Okay. Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to be mean to the guy, but he shouldn't be here in the world.
I don't think he or Taylor were meant for this reality show. I think they're meant for reality television, but I don't think this reality program was the good fit for them.
No, yeah, he was not made for that. He was made for what's that show you watch? Life After Lockup.
No.
Give him time. I don't trust him.
All right.
But no, he's good. I'm looking forward to seeing him just because it's always fascinating to see the kind of BS he
writes poetry in tangles in his words, and I can't wait to just get caught in that web.
Just catch me up.
Yeah.
Zach, just
smother me with your nonsense.
Total bullshit. Imagine him talking with Giovanni or whatever.
Gigi, yeah,
Gigi.
It would. That would be like watching swans with three legs dance.
Yeah,
it would just be kind of beautiful in some moments and just so awkward and unnecessary in others.
I'm not trying to brag too much about you, Grace, but you saying that Gigi speaks in riddles is truly it cracks me up as I'm walking down the street sometimes. But for folks listening, please Google "Best of Gigi" or something and see
On
and
Love
listen
is
to
Blind.
it, because it is saying she speaks in riddles.
She does. I mean, the
sums it up
way
perfect.
she talks is in riddles, and I love it. It's an escape room of words for all of us. Okay, so what do you next week?
Yes.
This show was a bust episode for me, but we still managed to talk about it too much.
Too much, yeah. We were expecting to talk about other things, but real quick to pop in and maybe do a couple more shows that we're watching right now.
Oh, sure. Well, I was going to ask, going into decision week next week, I think it might be the final episode. I'm not sure if they do one after. Who do you think's staying together? Who do you think's saying yes? Who's saying no?
Oh yeah, we have to do this now. Oh, yeah. This is the week.
This is the week. So who's saying yes? Who's saying no? Ready? Jessica and Austin.
Staying together.
Both say yes?
Absolutely both say
I
yes.
think both say yes. Let's do Katie and Derek.
No, that's a no for me.
Who's saying what, though?
Derek says yes, Katie says no.
Oh, I'm going to play wild card. I'm going to say they both say yes.
Cool.
Taylor, Brandon.
Nope.
I think they both say no.
Yep.
Do you think she says yes?
No, I think both no.
Both no. Okay. Mindy and Zach.
No.
No and no.
Double no.
I think it's a double no. But I think it's going to take a long time to get to that no from Zach.
Grace, there would be riots in the streets if Mindy says yes.
I think Mindy's going to have to hold Zach by the hair and move his jaw and ventriloquist the word no out of his mouth so that it finally gets said. Otherwise, he's just going to talk himself in a little tornado. Finally, Mika Michael.
Mika Michael, no. Michael, 100% will say no. Mika, I think, will say no because she'll suspect that he's going to say no.
Yeah.
And she'll be reactive to that.
I was on the fence about Mika because I thought maybe she'd want to work on it, but I think she's going to say no because she's going to realize that it's just going to be more work than it's worth.
Mm-hmm. Mika has a very likable laugh.
She does.
It's very pleasant.
It's very sweet.
In terms of reality show laughs, which I have a whole chart that I've made, lists them and ranks them, but yeah,
Great.
It's pretty high up.
Okay, you want to get into quickly the other shows that we've watched?
Yeah, I don't want to take up people's time too much because I feel like this episode
it got longer than expected.
How long are we at? 'Cause
We're at we're probably at an hour.
All right, well, we haven't finished Lego Master yet. So
We haven't finished Lego Masters.
Ozark's great.
Ozark's doing its crazy chaos nonsense. I was just talking to someone on the other podcast that finished season 3 and said we're going to really love it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, so
Cool.
I'm even more excited.
Yeah, my buddy texted me this morning too and said that he just finished Succession season 2, which we'd already seen very much, but it got me talking and excited about Succession, but it's not being produced right now because of the quarantine. So
Wow.
I just want to mention that show in case people haven't seen it.
There you
it's real
go.
good.
This is also just us proving that we watched other things than Married at First Sight.
This is the new way of proving that you're a social person.
Yeah, exactly.
I watch other shows.
Any other shows you would like to talk about?
Yeah, which is the weather. We watched the
weather.
We watched the news programs.
We watched Wheel of Fortune. Big into that.
Yeah, I know who the news anchor. I know what time of day some news anchors come on.
Wow. And how do you feel about that?
I think we should wrap up this.
Yep.
podcast.
Okay. We'll see you guys next week on more Pile It On.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.